Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and today I'm giving you my spring book haul. So at the start of 2020 I decided I wanted to track my book buying habits a little bit more because I wanted to try to read as many of the books already on my shelves instead of buying new books and then not reading them either, because we all know how that goes. So I made a list of all my unread books in my bullet journal. And then I also started to keep track of the books I bought, right here, 2020 editions. And I can tell you that I think I've bought fewer books than I bought last year, but I didn't keep track of it then, so who knows. I also bought a Kindle a few weeks ago, so I have been buying ebooks, but so far I've only bought 3, because I have set myself the rule that I can only buy an ebook if I'm also going to read it right away. So no buying books because they're cheap and on sale, because I think that would get out of hand very quickly. So in the 3 months of spring I've only bought 8 books, which I think is pretty good. So I'm going to show them to you now. Also, it's very hot. Summer has definitely started now, so I'm going to try to keep calm and casual. So I'm sitting on the floor because it's cooler here and it's just easier than standing up. Wow, that's lazy. I don't deal with heat well, let's just keep it at that. The first book I bought in spring is To Be Thought If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. This is a sci-fi novella and I haven't read this yet. I don't really remember why I decided to buy it. I ordered it from my local bookstore when lockdown was still in full swing. I think I just read the second book in the Wayfarers trilogy, which is Becky Chambers' sci-fi trilogy. The first book is called The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I've talked about it on this channel quite a lot already, I think. I absolutely love it. I haven't read the last book yet, but that's quickly becoming one of my favorite series of all time. And this is a novella that's also sci-fi, but it isn't set in the same universe, I think. And it's about scientists making a breakthrough in human spaceflight and finding a revolutionary method that makes astronauts be able to survive in hostile environments off Earth. It sounds very sciencey and interesting, so yeah, hoping to read that soon. The second book I bought is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. I bought this because of my Friends Choose My TBR project I did in May. If you want to know more about that, I'll leave a bunch of videos up above and down below. But basically I read 6 books that my friends recommended to me. I asked some of my friends to tell me a book to read, and that was what I was reading in May. And my friend Chitske recommended this to me, and this was the only book that I had to physically buy for that project, and I'm very glad I did because I absolutely loved this book. It's about Amira, who is a 25-year-old black babysitter who babysits for a white family, and one night when she and the little girl she takes care of are in a supermarket, she is apprehended by a security guard who thinks she has kidnapped the little girl. So that's basically the catalyst for the story, and a lot happens after that. It's about white privilege and racism and about finding your place in the world, and it's very, very good. And this is also Kylie Reid's debut novel, so I can't wait to see what she comes out with next. Then, on my first trip back to the bookstore in my town, I bought Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I read Normal People... Siggy. My guinea pigs always start to make noise when I'm filming a video. It's very annoying. Stop it! He's just doing it for the fun of it now. Anyway, I read Normal People earlier this year and really loved it. And then I found out that Bia from Lorien Forest also really loved it, and we decided to buddy read Sally Rooney's other book together, which is Conversations with Friends. We haven't read it yet. It's probably going to happen this summer, and I'm very excited about it, but also a little bit scared because I heard Emma from Drinking by My Shelf say that she heard that people either love Conversations with Friends and don't really like Normal People, or love Normal People and don't really like Conversations with Friends. Of course, that's more of a general thing and that isn't the rule, but I'm now a bit scared that I won't like this one. But my boyfriend is currently reading it and he really liked Normal People, and I think he's really liking this as well, so maybe it's just not true and I have nothing to worry about. On that same trip to the bookstore I also picked up Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. I actually don't know that much about it. I know I was in a bit of a tense mood in the bookstore because people weren't really sticking to the rules around the coronavirus and keeping their distance from people. So I was very tense in the bookstore. I wanted to go home and I figured I'd buy a fun book for myself. And then I found this, and I think it's a set in a bookstore, at least partly. And it's a young adult romance contemporary novel. It's also very pretty. I remembered it being on my Goodreads TBR. I tend to forget what's on my Goodreads TBR, but this was on it. So I figured I'd pick it up and read it soon. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm really excited to read it. Next up, I bought The Lollipop Shoes by Joanne Harris. This is the second book in the Chocolat series, and I've been planning to reread that series. I read this book, I think, 10 years ago, maybe even more, and I borrowed it from a friend of my mother's back then, and I really liked it. And years later I found out there was a third book. I bought that and I read that, and then recently a fourth book has come out. I haven't read that yet, but I picked that up as well. So I ended up having the first, the third and the fourth book in the series and not the second book. And that bugged me because I want to have my series complete. So I went on a search for this, and it was pretty difficult because it was sold out in a lot of places. It isn't very new, which is obvious since I read it 10 years ago. But I'm very glad I've now gotten my hands on it. I think the cover is very pretty and I'm really excited to reread this series, but honestly, I'm not sure when it will happen. I was planning on kind of binging it, but there are so many books I still want to read and that are high up on my priority list that maybe this will get postponed to later this year. I do really want to do it this year, but we'll see. I'll keep you posted. The next book I received was a book I pre-ordered, and that is This Coven Won't Break by Isabel Sterling. I read These Witches Don't Burn earlier this year, and it was a bit of a surprise. I read it during the Magical Readathon, I think. I figured it would be a fun YA book to read in between the more serious books I was reading, and that it would be a good palate cleanser and it would be a fine book. But I ended up absolutely loving it, being completely invested in the story. It's about a young witch living in Salem, Massachusetts. She is an elemental witch and she's part of a coven there, and the coven has to remain a secret. The regular people cannot know there are witches, but then there is a threat and problems happen. That's a great explanation. But anyway, plot happens and there is some romance, some female-female romance, and it's just, I absolutely loved it. And after I finished it, I found out that the second book, which is this one, would come out at the start of June, so I pre-ordered it and it arrived right on time, and it's beautiful, and I haven't read it yet. I was planning on reading it at the end of May, but it didn't happen, which was sad, but oh well. And the last two books I bought in spring are two Dutch books. The first one is Hallo Witte Mensen by Anousha Nzume. This title translates to Hello White People, and it's a non-fiction book about white privilege and racism in the Netherlands, which is where I'm from. With everything that's going on around the world and Black Lives Matter, I figured it was time to educate myself more. And I read Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge, which is about racism in Britain, but I figured it would also be good to read up on my own country, because there are a lot of books out there on white privilege and white rage and racism in America, but also in Britain. And it's good to be aware of that, it's good to know all about that, but I live in the Netherlands and I think it would be wrong of me to know about everything that's going on overseas and not be aware of what's happening right under my nose. So I picked this up. I haven't read it yet because I wanted to finish Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race first. I'm excited to read it. I think it will be very good, and I've heard good things about this. And the other Dutch book I picked up is Zwart, which is the Dutch word for black. And this is an anthology of Afro-European literature from the Netherlands. Or maybe also Belgium, but I think just the Netherlands. I haven't read this one yet either, but I ordered it together with Hallo Witte Mensen, and I hadn't heard of it. I don't read many Dutch novels or stories, but I figured it would be good to read these stories. This includes both fiction and non-fiction, and it says on the back that these writers show that being black is much more than just a color. It's urgent, it says here. It's engaging and funny. Well, it just seems very good, so I hope to read this soon as well. And those were the books I bought in spring. My last book haul was a winter book haul, which was for January, February and March. So this book haul is for April, May and June. And June isn't finished yet, it's now the 23rd of June. But I don't think I'll be buying any more books. Who knows, I might... Oh wait. I just remembered that I ordered 2 books and they'll be coming in probably next week. So that's still within the spring book haul thing. I'll just mention them here. I haven't gotten them yet, but I'll put up the covers. I ordered The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum, which is a contemporary sci-fi young adult novel. And it's about 2 girls who are thrown together for some reason and they end up developing a friendship, and I think they also end up falling in love. I've heard very good things about it and I'm in such a sci-fi mood lately, so I'm excited to read it. And the other book I ordered that's probably coming in soon is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown, which is a contemporary YA story that has traces of magical realism, and it's set in New York. And it's about a girl who ends up going to a more prestigious school than she used to go to before, and then portals start to open all over New York and magic happens everywhere. I'm not too sure what happens in the book, but it sounds really good and I was intrigued when I read the synopsis, so I ordered that one as well, and it will be arriving soon, I think. So those were officially all the books I bought in spring. That's it, no more. So in a comment down below, please let me know if you've read any of the books I mentioned and what you thought of them. What's one book that you recently bought that you're excited to read? Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of me. And have a wonderful day. Bye!